We all know that the Big Ten, which by the way is actually 14 teams, dominated the offseason headlines when it was announced that it will soon be 16 teams. But before then, there is the business of now, and that business is finally bringing a national title back to the Big Ten.
Alabama or the field.
Georgia fans think they're back in that championship game. The ACC is wide open.
Keep your seatbelt on.
The Heisman race should be one of the best ever.
There's going to be a star that pops up in college football that no one's expecting.
Believe it or not, it has been 8 seasons since the Big Ten won a natty, when Ohio State rode the shoulders of Ezekiel Elliott to the inaugural college football playoff. But that drought is certainly not for lack of chances. The conference has been represented in 6 of the 8 playoff fields of 4, and by 3 different teams, the latest being Michigan's memorable run to the CFP last season.
Man, we did it.
But this year's leading candidate to rep the conference in the postseason is a familiar playoff face, and the absolute last team that the Wolverines want to see take their place. The Buckeyes had the kind of 2021 campaign that is disappointing only in Columbus. 11-2. 1 conference loss, a Rose Bowl win, and a 6th place final ranking. Boo-hoo, right? Still, the only goal in the horseshoe is to win a national title. And oh yeah, avenge their first loss to that team up north in nearly a decade.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ohio State is vanquished.
Every Buckeye, not to mention the eyes of NFL scouts, will be focused on quarterback C.J. Stroud, who threw 44 touchdown passes 1 year ago versus only 6 INTs. Stroud will be handing it off to Travion Henderson and tossing it to Jackson Smith-Njigba and Marvin Harrison Jr. There's already talk about this offense threatening the all-time numbers posted by Joe Burrow and LSU in 2019.
Touchdown, Smith-Njigba, are you kidding me? Marvin Harrison Jr. with a hat trick.
Meanwhile, the D has received an overhaul from new defensive coordinator Jim Knowles, who traded one OSU, Oklahoma State, for another. So, who has the best chance of denying the Scarlet and Gray a return to the CFP? Let's start with the team that did it last November. After a flirtation with the pros, awkward, Jim Harbaugh and his khakis are back in Ann Arbor for season 8.
Who's got it better than us? Nobody!
Unfortunately, Aiden Hutchinson and Josh Ross are not back, but with 14 returning starters, including the nation's best kicker Jake Moody, there is certainly no lack of those on the roster eager to defend their Big Ten title. Expect the ball to be in the air more, just don't expect to know who'll be throwing it. It could be Cade McNamara or J.J. McCarthy. Meanwhile, over in the West, it's the usual cavalcade of usually consistent contenders. Wisconsin and Iowa will be their usual tractor pull selves, while Purdue is expected to engineer big yardage on the arm of QB Aiden O'Connell. Speaking of engineers, they love numbers, right? Well, so do we. And a perusal of the Big Ten Media Guide produces a slew of statistics that make you go, really? Like the number 8, as in 8 straight seasons that Ohio State has finished 6th or better in the final AP Top 25 rankings. Or 64.8, the number of rushing yards that Wisconsin allowed per game last season, breaking a record set by the legendary Hard Rocks defense of 1951. On the flip side, how about 324.8? That's how many passing yards Michigan State allowed per game last season, ranked 130th out of 130 teams. I am admittedly not good at math, but that sounds bad. But here's a Sparty stat that has half of the Great Lakes State green with envy. Mel Tucker has been the head coach at Michigan State for 2 seasons, and he's 2-0 against Michigan. Some might argue that the Big Ten is most unbeatable when it comes to great long-time rivalries, but the reality is that the games themselves take a backseat to the conference's rivalry game trophies. For winning those games over Michigan, State also won the Paul Bunyan Trophy, while Minnesota and Wisconsin play for Paul Bunyan's Axe.
The Axe stay in Madison.
Michigan State fights Indiana for the old brass spittoon. Indiana and Purdue play for the old oaken bucket, the little brown jug, the Illa Buck Trophy, the Land Grant Trophy. There's a battle for Abe Lincoln's hat, and then the greatest reward of them all, Floyd of Rosedale.
And there they go, running for Floyd.
A 100-pound brass pig. Hey, they used to play for a real pig. Will someone in the Big Ten collect a room full of that hardware and enough wins to take down Ohio State and make a run to the college football playoff? Like, Michigan in 2021? Curl up with a cool old trophy and let's see. Don't forget to watch all of the games during Xfinity Kickoff Week on ESPN and ABC.